summer. So I would like to make some broad comments about our assessment of that, as well as some new observations that emerged over the course of the summer. We've given you a fairly big packet, including some financial information and some independent data that we generated. And I think in the interest of time and the fact that the park itself is still putting together its analysis of the financial trends, we would love the opportunity to meet with some of the commissioners and staff on a separate basis to present these findings at a more give-and-take forum.
Wonderful. That's an excellent suggestion.
Okay. So I will leave that part aside for tonight. But you do have some of the recommendations that I've distributed. A great deal has changed at the park in the past 12 months, and we feel this wonderful public resource has been strengthened and enhanced for all who enjoy it, including the residents of the town of Rye and the city of Rye who fund its operation with their taxes. Back in February, we laid out the task force our paramount goal, which was to reduce the number of cars parked on the grass in order to meet three needs: improved safety, reduced environmental impact, and enhanced enjoyment for all users, especially pedestrians. We made three major recommendations in that report: that barriers be erected, that there be differential pricing, and that an automated collection system be implemented. Two of those three, we feel very happy, were addressed effectively by the Commission. The last one, in terms of automation, we still consider that to be a very critical component of the operations of the park, and that is still in investigation mode by this Commission, in my understanding. We feel that the changes were largely favorable over the summer. In terms of pricing, the tiered pricing system did shift the financial burden to the heaviest users, and the fact that the number of cars was reduced was, in fact, the intended result, by and large. It did have higher profit margins, but lower volumes. This was generally in line with our expectations. In terms of safety, the citizens part of the task force believed that the park became considerably safer over the course of the season due to four factors: a lower number of cars, increased police presence, which we think made a really big difference, a multitude of other safety improvements that the staff itself had generated and implemented, and the barriers, which we felt by and large were effective. We still feel that we would like that space shrunk and the barriers brought in, and we would emphasize that the openings, that it's still, in our opinion, important to mark and or close off the openings in the barriers, and it still remains an issue in off hours of the park. Caroline Walker was going to address some of the citizens' comments that we have gotten. There's been a very favorable response from the citizens of Rye anyway, and we do feel that the improvements that have been made have built credibility and hopefully forged a closer link between the communities they serve and the Park Commission. So Caroline, do you want to read?
Yeah, I'll just read an email. I think you all actually got a copy too, but for everybody else, the title is from a Rye resident. It says, "A dramatic metamorphosis in Rye Town Park. How very fortunate I am." It's from Hillary Remsen, a Rye resident. "How very fortunate I am to have lived in Rye the last 18 years and to have experienced the beautification of Rye Town Park. A dramatic metamorphosis from the early 90s with littered, scattered the lawns, occasional medical waste washing up on the beach, and a dark, unlit, foreboding place at night. Thankfully, the revitalization has been championed over the years by many who truly appreciate and recognize its uniqueness. These champions may not agree on all of the details of the improvements, but they cannot disagree that they have the park's best interests at heart and wish for Rye Town Park to shine and grow into its ideal. This summer, our family and friends and neighbors walked in the park, dined and strolled in the park. Our kids cartwheeled, fed ducks, smelled flowers, biked and laughed in the park. We watched artists painting, volleyball games, sunsets, and fireworks in the park. My hope is that someday our kids will be able to do the same with their families, so please keep up the improvements." And then just one more we got. A woman who also has children in the same school as my kids, and she came up to me the very first day and said, "I just have to tell you." So I asked her to put it in writing so I could read it to you. So she wrote, "I'm writing to let you know how much my family and I enjoyed the beach this summer. It was clean, peaceful, and full of people from our neighborhood. Although my family and I have only lived here for a year, we heard from many people that it has not always been this way, and that this was a huge improvement over years past. I hope that we can maintain these victories so that the people of Rye can continue to enjoy the privileges of enjoying a peaceful beach experience. As somebody told me, no need to belong to a country club. Sincerely, Flavia or Rusty."
Thanks very much.
So in terms of some of the new observations, these are things that have been talked about at other commission meetings, but the fact that some 90% at least of the users of the park were non-residents, we believe underscores the need for differential pricing going forward. The fact that cars were parked on the lawn this season for 69 days, again, suggests to us that we still need to minimize what we consider excessive use of the lawn for overflow parking. This is still a high priority in our opinion. The turnover rate we've talked about being higher than our initial projections, and the fact that the park only closed 3 days. And so even though space for 250 cars was eliminated, we feel the financial impact of that over the summer was more along the lines of 15 to 20,000. It was not, in our estimation, a huge penalty, and that was encouraging. That was something we had all feared. So our recommendations, and I understand that this is a little premature because there will be the community conversation coming up on Saturday, but we will be sort of handing off to the advisory council. And so in that regard, we would like to, just recommend, our final recommendations to the commissioners.
Sorry, just to be, when you say handing off to the advisory council,
Well, in City of Rye, we established an advisory committee to help us, the Rye representatives, inform policy decisions we make here. I guess they're not going to continue their work and the parking going long-term, right? You're going to hand that off to the...
Well, we felt it could be confusing to have one group, the group that's currently been working on the issues, and then you have a group that's been commissioned by the Rye City Council to talk about the same issues. Caroline and I aren't going anywhere, and, I'm happy to still remain involved, and if we decide to convene or reconvene the task force with the same members to make other recommendations, I will still be there.
I would say that this commission can set up its own subcommittee to look at a particular issue like you did last year, and members of our advisory committee can serve on that committee as well.
well, first of all, maybe I'll let you finish, but I would very much hope that the task force continue. I think the contribution from the task force to this board has been absolutely spectacular. I don't think we would have made the changes we did without the strong efforts of the task force. We didn't have much of a chance to review the copious information you pulled together. But again, I think that's just going to take us forward to the next level. I think we not only want to maintain the improvements we made this year, we want to take them forward. So while I think it's terrific that Rye City set up, I would be disappointed if we lost this input to the commission itself. And clearly you should coordinate, so if you...
Yeah, we're happy to continue with the work, I guess, as long as we carve it out so that we're not stepping on each other's toes.
Subcommittee of the new advisory committee. We'll work it out. We'll work it out with
Good.
them.
Yeah, we're not going
Some of the
anywhere.
same people serve, right? Like, wasn't Dan on the parking committee, Matheson?
Lena was,
okay.
but Dan,
All
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good.
But I think, did you have some...
Yeah, so it's not very much more, but really just, we would like to underscore that, in our opinion, automation is really the state of the art for municipal parking situations. I listed several benefits. I guess they're self-evident, but you can eliminate human error, get an accurate car count, reduce cash, provide superior data. I think this is important, solve the problem of staffing costs for what's a highly variable and weather-dependent business. On a rainy day, when you don't want your full staff, you can still be collecting parking fees. You can extend your season to 12 months of the year. You can provide better flexibility to your users if we create some sort of short-term portion for the parking lot. And again, all these plans and systems are out there, so we don't think it's rocket science to come up with one and to implement one. The second recommendation is that we wholeheartedly endorse the Commission's initiative to continue to build ties with residents and to increase Rye Town, Rye City resident usage of the park. We think that's going to be a critical piece going forward. And hopefully we'll get some good ideas on Saturday. But we think that, you should consider all manner of marketing plans, promotions, special events in joint arrangements. And then the other recommendations are just things that we had highlighted in February, continuing to encourage mass transit, exploring use of alternate lots. We still would prefer to see the cars off the Stone Bridge, and a longer-term solution, having them all on the west side of the pond. And we do believe that some of the behaviors in terms of alcohol use and smoking, they did improve over the course of the summer, but we would hope that that bar could continue to be raised. That's it.
Well, first of all, thank you, and thank you so much, Christine and Caroline, for all your hard work. I know you've put a lot of time and effort to this. Before you go, let me ask the commission members for questions and comments.
I was just looking at the numbers on the 6th of September. Do they seem there's any anomalies going on there with the, it seems like the...
I think that I had a chance to speak briefly with Christine ahead of the meeting. I think that there are some discrepancies between the numbers we have and the numbers they produced, and that's why we thought it made best sense to sit down. As you can appreciate, it's a fairly dynamic situation, and so to reconcile the numbers, and we want to do that very much as soon as possible. Please.
Yes, I thank you very much for the recommendations and for all of your work this year. I think the recommendations are very important. One of the things I just want to point out is that this year we have better data than ever before, and we know that the park is used 90% by non-residents. When I say non-residents of the town of Rye and also the city of Rye as well, which to me is the most disheartening part of the data that we have been provided, because the park is run by the town of Rye, and yet our citizens, and also in conjunction with the city and the essential services, many essential services, including police, are provided by the city of Rye. And I think this is one of the most telling aspects, and also has promoted a little bit of a schism in the press, so to speak. Laudatory letters that you read to us, but we also have received others, and some outside of the city of Rye, outside of the town of Rye as well, for some of the policies that we have promulgated as a commission. I think one of the true priorities, is that what you've highlighted, as I've been thinking about this, we must attract, whether or not, things to think about, we're going to talk about this. Unfortunately, I cannot be at Saturday's meeting. I didn't realize it was set in stone, so I apologize in advance. I will be out of town. But I think that is really priority number one. And maybe this is not the time. If there is something else, maybe this is the time. One of the things that concerns me about the park is the fact that I just referred to the fact that essential services are provided by the city of Rye, including police. And I raised this in the spring, and it's no disrespect to us as commissioners, which is interesting. I serve as the mayor of a community. What percentage of my community members use it? It's very, very small indeed. But that's neither here nor there, because it's owned by the town of Rye, of which the village of Rybrook, the village of Portchester, the unincorporated, and physically it's located in the city of Rye. I've asked a question, I don't know if it's outside the box, which is, the city of Rye runs a golf course, runs a certain type of facility somewhat comparable. We're talking about, I don't want to say a resort. What can we do for economies of scale? Maybe the town of Rye should enter into some sort of management contract with the city. I'm not saying we should, and it's not out of disrespect at all for our hard-working employees. But going forward, I think that it's so hard. For example, were there overtime expenses utilized at any point by the city of Rye that we had to pay for the town? It's just something that in the back of my mind, and I don't know the time to state it, whether or not going forward this is something to be looked at. Maybe it's not as appropriate this year because it looks as if that we're going to come out, maybe break even and the like. Maybe years past when it's not the case. But maybe economies of scale, either into a contract basis or a portion of a contract basis, but something I would like to explore for the forthcoming year.
Again, if the city of Rye can, obviously the city of Rye is very clear as to what the expenditures are at the park. If the city of Rye can come forward with a proposal where they believe they can deliver the same services at a significant discount, it only makes sense for us to do it.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
No, sure.
Maybe
if there's a way to do it.
But there's comparable services and this professionally.
Yeah.
So.
So
Just a
go ahead,
thought.
Joe, and then...
No answers, but, I'm not going to be there on Saturday, but it might have been something that I raised, so. But I thank you.
Thanks, John, and I won't address that right now, but I would just like to address you, Caroline and Christina, and, certainly the changes that have been implemented this year would not have happened if we didn't vote on them.